Describe the essential components of medication therapy management (MTM) and explain the pharmacist's role in ensuring the effectiveness of each component. Answer: medication therapy management (MTM) encompasses several critical components designed to optimize therapeutic outcomes for patients. The key components include comprehensive medication review (CMR), a systematic process where pharmacists review a patient's medications to assess their appropriateness, effectiveness, safety, and adherence. This may involve identifying any discrepancies between prescribed and over-the-counter medications. Medication Action Plan (MAP). After completing the CMR, pharmacists develop a personalized MAP that outlines specific actions to enhance medication use, including changes to therapy, lifestyle modifications, and patient education. Patient documentation. This involves maintaining accurate and updated records of all patient interactions, medication lists, and follow-up actions, which are crucial for ongoing care and communication among healthcare providers. MTM records and follow-up plans. Pharmacists must create follow-up plans to monitor patient outcomes and adjust therapy as needed. Documentation serves as a legal record of the services provided. Drug utilization review, DUR, analysis and interventions. This process entails evaluating patient medication regimens to identify potential issues such as drug interactions or therapeutic duplications. Pharmacists must intervene appropriately, which may include contacting prescribers to discuss necessary changes. Pharmacists' role. Pharmacists play a pivotal role in each of these components by providing clinical expertise, patient education, and ongoing support, ensuring that patients receive optimal medication therapy while minimizing adverse effects and drug-related problems. What are the state-specific immunization authorities for pharmacists, and how do they impact the delivery of immunization services? Answer: state-specific immunization authority allows pharmacists to administer vaccines under certain regulations established by state law. This authority varies significantly from one state to another, affecting the scope of immunization services pharmacists can provide. Key points include scope of practice. Many states permit pharmacists to administer vaccines to adults and minors, while others may restrict certain immunizations to specific age groups or conditions. Training requirements. States often mandate that pharmacists complete training programs accredited by recognized bodies, e.g., the American Pharmacists Association, before they can administer vaccines. This ensures that pharmacists are equipped with the necessary skills to handle potential adverse reactions. Documentation and reporting. Pharmacists are typically required to maintain accurate records of immunizations administered and report this information to state immunization registries. This enhances public health surveillance and promotes accountability. Collaboration with healthcare providers. Pharmacists must work in conjunction with other healthcare providers to coordinate immunization efforts, ensuring patients receive appropriate vaccinations as per the Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices (ACID) recommendations. Impact on delivery of immunization services. The scope of pharmacist immunization authority directly affects accessibility to vaccinations, especially in underserved areas, allowing pharmacists to play a vital role in increasing vaccination rates and enhancing community health outcomes. Mr. Thompson, a 67-year-old male with a history of hypertension and type 2 diabetes, presents to your pharmacy with a prescription for a new medication. Listen up, Paul. Upon reviewing his medication profile, you notice that he is already taking an ACE inhibitor and has a history of angioedema. What steps should you take as a pharmacist in this situation? Answer: in this scenario, as a pharmacist, the following steps should be taken. Conduct a drug utilization review. Analyze Mr. Thompson's medication profile for potential therapeutic duplication, contraindications, or interactions. In this case, the presence of another ACE inhibitor in his regimen and his history of angioedema raise significant concerns. Assess the patient's condition. Engage Mr. Thompson in a conversation to confirm his understanding of his current medications and the new prescription. Assess for any recent symptoms that may indicate worsening conditions or side effects. Contact the prescriber. Given the risk of angioedema associated with ACE inhibitors, it is essential to contact the prescribing physician. Communicate the findings of your DUR, emphasizing the potential risks and the presence of another ACE inhibitor in his regimen. Provide alternative options. Suggest alternative antihypertensive therapies that do not carry the same risks, such as angiotensins and IR receptor blockers (ARBs), which may be safer for Mr. Thompson based on his medical history. Document the interaction. Record your findings and the steps taken in Mr. Thompson's medication profile to ensure continuity of care and to provide a legal record of your intervention. Explain the significance of therapeutic duplication in the context of drug utilization review, and provide strategies for pharmacists to identify and manage such situations. Answer: therapeutic duplication occurs when a patient is prescribed multiple medications that have similar pharmacological effects, potentially leading to adverse outcomes such as increased risk of side effects or overdose. Its significance in the context of drug utilization review includes patient safety. Identifying therapeutic duplication is crucial for preventing adverse drug reactions, which can compromise patient safety and lead to hospitalizations. Cost effectiveness. Therapeutic duplication may lead to unnecessary healthcare costs due to ineffective therapy or increased side effects requiring additional treatments. Compliance with regulations. Regulatory bodies require pharmacists to conduct DURS that include checks for therapeutic duplication, ensuring adherence to best practice standards. Strategies for identification and management. Utilize electronic health records (ER). Pharmacists should leverage HRS and pharmacy management systems to flag potential duplications automatically during the prescription filling process. Patient consultation. Engage with patients to gather information about all medications they are taking, including over-the-counter drugs and supplements which may not be documented in the system. Collaborate with prescribers. Maintain open communication with prescribers to address any identified duplications. Discuss alternatives and ensure a coordinated approach to patient care. Educate patients. Provide education to patients about the importance of medication adherence and the potential risks of taking multiple medications for the same condition. By proactively managing therapeutic duplication, pharmacists can enhance patient safety, optimize therapeutic outcomes, and ensure compliance with legal and professional standards. Discuss the pharmacist's role in identifying and resolving drug-related problem (ERPS) and outline the steps involved in a systematic approach to DRP management. Answer: pharmacists play a critical role in identifying and resolving drug-related problem (ERPS), which can significantly affect patient outcomes. The systematic approach to DRP management involves the following steps. Identification of DRPS. This process includes assessing medication regimens for issues such as adverse drug reactions, ADWRs, monitoring for unexpected side effects, drug interactions, identifying potential pharmacokinetic and pharmacodynamic interactions, non-adherence, evaluating reasons why patients may not be taking their medications as prescribed, assessment of severity and impact. Once DRPS are identified, pharmacists must evaluate their severity and potential impact on patient health. This involves understanding the patient's clinical condition and history. Developing a care plan. Collaborate with patients and healthcare providers to create a comprehensive care plan that addresses identified RPS. This plan may involve medication adjustments, patient education, and follow-up monitoring. Implementation of interventions. Execute the care plan by facilitating changes in medication therapy, providing counseling to patients, and coordinating with other healthcare professionals as needed. Monitoring and follow-up. Continuously monitor the patient's response to interventions, reassessing their medication regimen and making adjustments as necessary to optimize therapy. Documentation. Maintain detailed records of identified RPS interventions made and the outcomes of those interventions to ensure continuity of care and legal compliance. By following this systematic approach, pharmacists can effectively manage RPS, enhance patient safety, and contribute to improved health outcomes. What other legal and ethical considerations pharmacists must adhere to when providing immunization services? Answer: when providing immunization services, pharmacists must navigate various legal and ethical considerations. State regulations. Pharmacists must comply with state-specific laws governing immunization practices, which dictate the scope of practice, training requirements, and age restrictions for vaccine administration. Informed consent. Pharmacists are responsible for obtaining informed consent from patients prior to administering vaccines. This involves providing patients with information about the vaccine, its benefits, risks, and potential side effects. Documentation requirements. Pharmacists must maintain accurate records of all vaccinations administered, including patient information, vaccine type, lot number, and administration date. This documentation is essential for legal compliance and public health reporting. Adverse event reporting. Pharmacists must be familiar with the Vaccine Adverse Event Reporting System (VAERS) and their responsibility to report any adverse reactions following immunization to ensure ongoing safety monitoring. Confidentiality and privacy. Pharmacists must protect patient confidentiality in accordance with the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act (HIPAA), ensuring that patient information is securely stored and shared only with authorized individuals. Ethical obligations. Pharmacists have an ethical duty to prioritize patient health and well-being, ensuring equitable access to vaccines and addressing any health disparities that may exist within the community. By adhering to these legal and ethical considerations, pharmacists can provide immunization services responsibly and effectively, contributing to overall public health initiatives. Explain the significance of a comprehensive medication review (CMR) in patient care and detail the key steps a pharmacist should take during this process. Answer: a comprehensive medication review (CMR) is a critical component of patient-centered care, designed to optimize medication use and improve health outcomes. Its significance lies in patient safety. CMRs help identify potential drug-related problems, ensuring that patients are not exposed to unnecessary risks or adverse reactions. Medication optimization. By reviewing all medications, pharmacists can recommend adjustments or alternatives that enhance therapeutic effectiveness while minimizing side effects. Improved adherence. CMRs provide an opportunity for pharmacists to educate patients about their medications, fostering understanding and encouraging adherence. Key steps in the CMR process: gather patient information, collect comprehensive data including current medications, medical history, allergies, and lifestyle factors. This step may involve patient interviews and reviewing electronic health records. Analyze medication regimen. Assess the appropriateness of each medication, considering factors such as indications, contraindications, potential drug interactions, and therapeutic duplications. Identify drug-related problem (OPS). Document any identified OPS, categorizing them based on severity and potential impact on the patient's health. Develop a medication action plan map. Create a personalized MAP outlining specific recommendations for addressing identified OPS, including therapy adjustments, follow-up plans, and educational interventions. Engage the patient. Discuss the findings and recommendations with the patient, ensuring they understand the importance of the proposed changes and feel empowered to manage their health. Document the review. Maintain thorough documentation of the CMR process, including findings, recommendations, and follow-up plans, to ensure continuity of care. Through a systematic and thorough CMR process, pharmacists can enhance patient care, ensure medication safety, and contribute to positive health outcomes. Discuss the protocols pharmacists must follow when administering vaccines, including the documentation and reporting requirements associated with immunization services. Answer: pharmacists play a pivotal role in the administration of vaccines, requiring adherence to strict protocols to ensure safety and compliance with regulations. Key protocols include preparation and administration, verify patient eligibility based on state regulations and established protocols, ensure proper storage and handling of vaccines adhering to manufacturer guidelines, utilize aseptic techniques when preparing and administering vaccines to minimize infection risk, inform consent, provide patients with information regarding the vaccine, including its benefits, risks, and potential side effects. Obtain informed consent from the patient or their guardian prior to administration. Documentation. Accurately document all relevant details of the vaccination, including patient name and contact information, vaccine type and lot number, date and time of administration. Site of administration, e.g. deltoid muscle. Ensure records are maintained according to state laws and regulations. Reporting requirements. Report administered vaccines to state immunization registries as mandated by law. This enhances public health surveillance and supports community immunization efforts. Participate in the Vaccine Adverse Event Reporting System (VAERS) by reporting any adverse events or reactions experienced by patients post-vaccination. Follow-up care. Schedule follow-up visits as needed to monitor for adverse effects and assess vaccine effectiveness. Provide patients with post-vaccination instructions, including information on what to expect and when to seek medical help if needed. By following these protocols, pharmacists can ensure the safe and effective administration of vaccines, contributing to public health initiatives and fostering community trust in immunization services. What role does patient education play in the success of medication therapy management (MTM), and what strategies can pharmacists use to enhance patient understanding and adherence? Answer: patient education is a cornerstone of successful medication therapy management (MTM), significantly influencing patient outcomes and medication adherence. Its role includes empowerment, educating patients about their medications, including indications, proper usage, and potential side effects, empowers them to take an active role in their health care. Reduction of medication errors. Clear communication helps patients understand their medication regimens, minimizing the risk of dosing errors or medication mismanagement. Enhanced adherence. When patients comprehend the importance of their medications, they are more likely to adhere to prescribed therapies, leading to improved health outcomes. Strategies for enhancing patient understanding. Use of plain language. Avoid medical jargon when discussing medications. Use simple, clear language to explain complex concepts. Teach back method. After providing information, ask patients to explain back what they have understood. This reinforces their knowledge and helps identify any gaps in understanding. Visual aids. Incorporate visual aids such as diagrams, charts, or medication schedules to enhance comprehension and retention of information. Personalized counseling. Tailor education sessions to individual patient needs, considering their health literacy, cultural background, and specific medication regimens. Written materials. Provide written materials that patients can take home, summarizing key points discussed during counseling sessions. Follow-up contacts. Schedule follow-up calls or visits to reinforce education, answer questions, and address any concerns regarding their medication therapy. By prioritizing patient education within MTM, pharmacists can significantly improve patient adherence, health outcomes, and overall satisfaction with their care. Analyze the importance of conducting a drug utilization review and explain the criteria pharmacists should use to evaluate medication regimens effectively. Answer: conducting a drug utilization review is essential in pharmacy practice as it helps ensure the safe and effective use of medications. The importance of DUR includes patient safety. DURS identify potential drug-related problem or PS, such as adverse drug reactions, drug interactions, and therapeutic duplications, which can lead to patient harm if not addressed. Quality of care. By evaluating medication regimens, pharmacists contribute to high-quality patient care, ensuring that medications prescribed align with current clinical guidelines and best practices. Cost-effectiveness. Effective DURS can identify unnecessary medications or duplications, leading to more cost-effective therapy options and reduced healthcare costs for patients. Criteria for evaluating medication regimens. Pharmacists should use the following criteria when conducting DURS: therapeutic duplication. Check for medications that have the same therapeutic effects. If found, evaluate the necessity of continuing both therapies. Drug interactions. Assess for potential pharmacokinetic and pharmacodynamic interactions that may compromise safety or efficacy. Utilize reliable drug interaction databases for accurate information. Contraindications. Review the patient's medical history for conditions that may contraindicate the use of certain medications, ensuring all prescribed drugs are safe. Dosage and administration. Evaluate if the prescribed dosages are appropriate for the patient's age, weight, renal function, and overall clinical condition, adjusting as necessary. Adherence indicators. Consider factors that may affect adherence, such as complex regimens or side effects, and address these in counseling sessions. Clinical guidelines. Compare the patient's medication therapy with established clinical guidelines and evidence-based practices to ensure optimal treatment. By systematically conducting DURS based on these criteria, pharmacists can enhance patient safety, improve therapeutic outcomes, and provide a higher standard of care. What are the key differences between the various types of DEA registrants, and how does each type of registrant impact the regulation of controlled substances? Answer: the Drug Enforcement Administration categorizes registrants based on their role in handling controlled substances. The primary types of registrants include pharmacies, licensed to dispense controlled substances to patients and must adhere to strict inventory, record-keeping, and storage regulations. Prescribers, physicians, dentists, and other authorized professionals who prescribe controlled substances. They must possess a valid DEA registration number which allows them to write prescriptions within the scope of their practice. Manufacturers, entities that produce controlled substances. They face rigorous regulations concerning production methods, quality control, and distribution to ensure that controlled substances are not diverted for illegal use. The differences in registration affect compliance requirements, including security measures for storage, record-keeping, and reporting obligations. For example, pharmacies must keep records of all controlled substances dispensed, while manufacturers must track production and distribution extensively. Violations can lead to civil penalties, suspension, or revocation of the DEA registration. 21 U.S.C. SS 841-842. Explain the security requirements that pharmacies must implement to safeguard controlled substances. What are the consequences of failing to meet these requirements? Answer: Pharmacies must establish a comprehensive security system to protect controlled substances from theft and unauthorized access. Key security requirements include physical security. Controlled substances must be stored in securely locked cabinets or safes, particularly Schedule I drugs, which have the highest potential for abuse. Pharmacies should also consider alarm systems and surveillance cameras. Access control. Only authorized personnel should have access to areas where controlled substances are stored. Pharmacies should implement policies for employee screening and training to reduce the risk of internal theft. Record keeping. Pharmacies are required to maintain accurate records of all controlled substances received, dispensed, and disposed of. This includes maintaining an audit trail to track the movement of these substances within the pharmacy. Failure to comply with these security requirements can result in severe consequences, including fines, disciplinary action by the State Board of Pharmacy, and potential criminal charges under 21 U.S.C. SS 841 and 842, leading to loss of DEA registration. Mr. Smith is a pharmacist who notices a pattern of missing controlled substances in his pharmacy. Upon investigation, he discovers that a technician has been diverting medications for personal use. What steps should Mr. Smith take to address this situation, considering both ethical and legal obligations? Answer: in this situation, Mr. Smith must take the following steps. Immediate reporting. Mr. Smith should report the incident to the pharmacy's management and the State Board of Pharmacy. This action aligns with ethical obligations to ensure patient safety and regulatory compliance. Document evidence. He must gather and document all relevant evidence, including inventory records, surveillance footage, and any witness statements to support the investigation. Employee termination. If the evidence confirms misconduct, Mr. Smith should proceed with terminating the technician's employment following the pharmacy's HR policies. Notify the DEA. As per DEA regulations, Mr. Smith must complete and submit DEA Form 106 for reporting the theft or significant loss of controlled substances. 21 CFR SS 1301.76. Implement corrective measures. To prevent future occurrences, Mr. Smith should review and enhance security protocols, employee training, and inventory management systems. Legal consultation. Consulting with legal counsel may be necessary to understand any potential liability issues and to navigate the reporting process effectively. Describe the process and criteria for pharmacy participation in the Medicare Part D program. What are the implications for formulary management? Answer: participation in the Medicare Part D program requires pharmacies to adhere to specific criteria and processes. Enrollment. Pharmacies must enroll in Medicare and obtain a National Provider Identifier (NPI) number. This identification is necessary for billing and reimbursement. Contracting with PBMs. Pharmacies typically contract with pharmacy benefit managers (PBMs) that manage drug formularies and claims processing for Medicare Part D. Understanding the PBM's formulary is critical as it determines which drugs are covered and at what cost. Compliance with CMS guidelines. Pharmacies must comply with Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services (CMS) regulations, which include maintaining accurate drug utilization records and adhering to prior authorization requirements for certain medications. Implications for formulary management include ensuring that the pharmacy is stocked with medications on the formulary, understanding the maximum allowable cost (MAC), pricing, and managing patient access to necessary medications while navigating prior authorization and appeal processes. 42 U.S.C. SS 1395-101. What are the key differences in record-keeping requirements for Schedule II versus Schedule Roman IV controlled substances? How do these differences impact pharmacy practice? Answer: record-keeping for controlled substances is heavily regulated, with distinct requirements for Schedule II and Schedule Roman IV drugs. Schedule II controlled substances. Pharmacies must maintain a separate and accurate record of all Schedule II prescriptions. A perpetual inventory system is often required, including documentation of each transaction. Records must be retained for at least 2 years from the date of dispensing. 21 CFR SS 1304.4. Schedule Roman IV controlled substances. While pharmacies must also keep records for these schedules, the requirements are less stringent than for Schedule II substances. A single file for all Schedule Roman IV prescriptions is acceptable, and a biennial inventory count is typically sufficient. Records must still be kept for 2 years, but less detailed tracking may be permitted. 21 CFR SS 1304.3. The implications for pharmacy practice include the need for rigorous inventory management and security protocols for Schedule II drugs due to their high potential for abuse and diversion. Non-compliance can lead to audits, fines, and possible loss of licensure. Discuss the requirements for compassionate use and expanded access programs for investigational drugs. How does this impact patient care and pharmacy practice? Answer: compassionate use and expanded access programs allow patients with serious or life-threatening conditions to access investigational drugs not yet approved by the FDA. Key requirements include eligibility. Patients must have a serious medical condition and lack alternative treatment options. The physician must determine that the potential benefit of the investigational drug outweighs the risks. FDA approval. Physicians must submit a request to the FDA for compassionate use providing documentation of the patient's condition and the rationale for using the investigational drug. Informed consent. Patients must provide informed consent after understanding the potential risks and benefits, including the lack of established safety and efficacy. Institutional Review Board approval. Depending on the circumstances, an IRB may need to review the proposed use of the drug to ensure ethical considerations are met. These programs impact patient care by providing access to potentially life-saving therapies. Pharmacies must be familiar with the regulations governing these programs and the specific handling requirements for investigational drugs, as they may need to source these medications and ensure proper documentation and patient counseling. Explain the key components of the anti-kickback statute and how it affects pharmacy operations. What are the implications for compliance? Answer: the Anti-Kickback Statute Act prohibits any remuneration intended to induce or reward referrals for services or items covered by federal healthcare programs, including Medicare and Medicaid. Key components include prohibition on kickbacks. The statute prohibits offering, paying, soliciting, or receiving any form of remuneration that can influence healthcare decisions. Safe harbors. The AKS includes safe harbor provisions that outline specific practices that are permissible, such as certain discounts, warranties, and personal services arrangements, provided they meet specific criteria. Criminal and civil penalties. Violations of the AKS can lead to significant civil fines, imprisonment, and exclusion from federal healthcare programs. 42 U.S.C. SS 1320-7. Implications for pharmacy operations include the necessity for clear policies on relationships with healthcare providers, transparency in financial arrangements, and employee training to prevent inadvertent violations. Pharmacies should also establish compliance programs to monitor adherence to AKS requirements actively. What are the criteria for a drug to receive orphan drug designation under the Orphan Drug Act, and what incentives are provided for drug development? Answer: the Orphan Drug Act provides incentives for the development of drugs for rare diseases affecting fewer than 200,000 people in the United States. Key criteria for designation include rarity of the disease. The drug must be intended to treat a rare disease or condition defined as one affecting fewer than 200,000 individuals in the U.S. Scientific evidence. The applicant must provide evidence of the drug's potential to treat the condition effectively, which may include clinical data or preclinical studies. Incentives for developing orphan drugs include tax credits. Developers can receive tax credits for clinical trial expenses related to the orphan drug. Market exclusivity. Orphan drug designation grants 7 years of market exclusivity upon FDA approval, preventing approval of similar products during the period. 21 U.S.C. SS 360. Grant funding. Developers may also access grants for clinical trial costs. These incentives encourage pharmaceutical companies to invest in research for rare diseases, ultimately enhancing treatment options for affected patients. What are the key elements of the claims submission process for pharmacies participating in Medicare and Medicaid programs? Discuss the role of prior authorization. Answer: the claims submission process for pharmacies involves several critical steps. NPI number. Pharmacies must utilize their National Provider Identifier (NPI) number when submitting claims for reimbursement, ensuring accurate identification within the healthcare system. Billing codes. Accurate use of current procedural terminology, CPT codes, and national drug codes (NDC) is essential for successful claim submission. Any discrepancies can lead to claim denials. Prior authorization. For certain medications, particularly those that are high cost or subject to abuse, prior authorization may be required. The pharmacy must submit documentation to the payer demonstrating the medical necessity of the medication. Appeal processes. If a claim is denied, pharmacies must understand the appeals process, which may involve providing additional documentation or justification to the payer to reverse the decision. 42 CFR SS 423.578. These processes impact pharmacy operations by necessitating detailed record-keeping and communication with healthcare providers to ensure compliance with payer requirements and secure timely reimbursement. What are the criteria for expedited review designations such as fast track, breakthrough therapy, and priority review, and how do these pathways influence drug development and pharmacy practice? Answer: the FDA offers several expedited review pathways to facilitate the development of drugs addressing unmet medical needs. Fast track designation: this pathway is for drugs intended to treat serious conditions and fill an unmet medical need. It allows for more frequent communication with the FDA and the possibility of rolling submissions of data. Breakthrough therapy designation: a drug may qualify for this status if it demonstrates substantial improvement over existing therapies for a serious condition. This designation provides all the benefits of fast track along with intensive guidance from the FDA. Priority review: this designation reduces the review period from 10 months to 6 months for drugs that offer significant benefits over existing treatments. These expedited pathways influence drug development by encouraging innovation and reducing time to market for critical therapies. For pharmacy practice, understanding these designations is essential for anticipating the availability of new treatments and managing patient access to innovative therapies. Explain the criteria for scheduling drugs under the Controlled Substances Act (CSA) and discuss how a drug may be rescheduled or descheduled. Include relevant legal references in your answer. Answer: the scheduling of drugs under the CSA is based on a comprehensive analysis of several criteria outlined in 21 U.S.C. SS 812. The key factors include potential for abuse, the drug's likelihood of being abused and the extent of abuse in the community, scientific evidence, the current scientific evidence regarding the drug's pharmacological effects, history and current pattern of abuse, consideration of the drug's historical abuse patterns and its current misuse rates, scope, duration, and significance of abuse, an evaluation of the drug's overall impact on public health, psychological and physiological dependence, the likelihood of the drug causing dependence. Drugs are placed into one of 5 schedules, IV, based on these criteria, with Schedule I representing substances with no accepted medical use and a high potential for abuse, while Schedule V includes those with lower abuse potential. To reschedule or deschedule a drug, the Drug Enforcement Administration (D) or the Secretary of Health and Human Services must undertake a formal review process. This includes public hearings, scientific evaluations, and a recommendation from the FDA, as stipulated in 21 U.S.C. SS 811. Who must register with the DEA and what are the specific application and renewal processes for pharmacies? Describe the relevant forms and retention requirements for records. Answer: under the Controlled Substances Act, the following entities must register with the D: pharmacies, practitioners, including physicians, dentists, and veterinarians, manufacturers and distributors of controlled substances application process. Pharmacies must submit D: a Form 224 to apply for registration. This form requires information about the pharmacy's ownership, location, and the type of services provided. Renewal occurs every 3 years, and pharmacies must submit D: a Form 224 for renewal. The application must be completed and submitted 60 days before the expiration date to avoid any lapse in registration. Record keeping. Pharmacies must maintain records of controlled substances, including invoices, inventory records, and prescription records for a minimum of 2 years. Biennial inventories are required, and D: a Form 222 must be used for ordering Schedule I controlled substances. Identify the essential elements of a valid controlled substance prescription. Discuss who is authorized to prescribe and the verification of DEA numbers. Answer: a valid controlled substance prescription must include patient's name and address, clear identification of the patient receiving the medication, drug name and strength, specific details about the medication prescribed, dosage form and quantity, clear instructions on how much of the drug is to be dispensed, directions for use, instructions detailing how the medication should be taken, prescriber's information, name, address, and D: a number of the prescriber, date of issuance, the date when the prescription was written, signature of prescriber. A signature is required for written prescriptions. Only licensed practitioners can prescribe controlled substances, including physicians, dentists, and nurse practitioners with prescriptive authority. To verify D: a number, one must check the format. It consists of 2 letters, 6 numbers, and 1 check digit. Calculate the check digit using the formula. Let first add the first, third, and fifth digits, then add the second, fourth, and sixth digits, and multiply that sum by 2. Finally, add both sums and find the last digit of that total. This digit should match the check digit of the DEA number. Mr. Thompson is a pharmacist who has received a request from a physician to dispense a partial fill of a Schedule I controlled substance for a patient. The physician has indicated that the patient may only need a portion of the prescribed amount due to financial constraints and may come back for the rest later. What steps must Mr. Thompson take to ensure compliance with federal regulations? Include relevant laws and guidelines in your explanation. Answer: in this scenario, Mr. Thompson must follow several key steps to comply with the Controlled Substances Act and DEA regulations regarding the dispensing of Schedule I medications, verify prescription validity, ensure that the prescription meets all criteria for a valid Schedule I prescription, including the prescriber's DEA number, document partial fill according to 21 CF bar SS 1306.13. A pharmacist is allowed to partially fill a Schedule I prescription if the total quantity dispensed does not exceed the total quantity prescribed. The partial fill is recorded on the prescription record. Patient request. The patient must request the partial fill, or the prescriber must indicate that a partial fill is appropriate for the patient's condition. Refill within time limits. Mr. Thompson should inform the physician and patient that the remaining quantity of the prescription must be filled within 30 days of the date the prescription was issued as per 21 CF bar SS 1306.13. Record keeping. Ensure all documentation is accurately maintained to reflect the partial fill. This includes retaining the original prescription and documenting the amount dispensed and the date. Discuss the requirements for compliance with Good Manufacturing Practice (CGMP) as stipulated by the FDA. What are the key aspects of EGMP that pharmaceutical manufacturers must follow, and what are the consequences of non-compliance? Answer: Good Manufacturing Practice (CGMP) are established by the FDA under 21 CFR Part 210 and Part 211 to ensure that drugs are consistently produced and controlled according to quality standards. Key aspects include quality control, implementing rigorous quality assurance systems to monitor the manufacturing process, personnel qualifications, ensuring that all staff involved in production are qualified and trained in EGMP, facility standards, maintaining a clean, sanitary, and properly maintained manufacturing environment, equipment maintenance, regular maintenance and calibration of manufacturing equipment to ensure functionality and accuracy, documentation and record keeping. Meticulous records must be kept of all manufacturing processes, quality control checks, and any changes made to procedures. Product testing, rigorous testing of raw materials and finished products to confirm compliance with safety and quality standards. Consequences of non-compliance. Failure to comply with CGMP can result in severe penalties, including fines and sanctions, financial penalties imposed by the FDA, product recalls, forced withdrawal of defective products from the market, legal action, potential criminal charges for willful violations, loss of licenses, revocation of the manufacturing license impacting the ability to produce drugs. What are the federal labeling requirements for prescription drugs under the Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act (FDA)? Discuss the consequences of misbranding and the role of medication guides. Answer: the FDA mandates specific labeling requirements for prescription drugs to ensure that they are used safely and effectively. Key requirements include drug name and strength, the proprietary name if applicable, and the established name must be prominently displayed in active ingredients. A list of inactive ingredients, which is crucial for patients with allergies. Dosage instructions. Clear instructions regarding the dosage and administration, warnings and precautions, important information regarding side effects, contraindications and interactions, manufacturer information, the name and address of the manufacturer must be included. Consequences of misbranding. Misbranding occurs when a drug's labeling is false or misleading in any way, as per 21 U.S.C. SS 352. Consequences include legal action from the FDA, financial penalties, reputational damage to the manufacturer. Role of medication guides. Medication guides are required for certain medications that pose a significant risk of serious adverse effects. These guides are designed to educate patients about safe and effective use, helping to mitigate risks associated with the drug's use. They must be provided with each prescription and include critical information about the drug's safety. Under what circumstances can a pharmacist emergency dispense a Schedule I controlled substance? Discuss the specific regulations and documentation requirements that must be followed. Answer: a pharmacist may emergency dispense a Schedule I controlled substance under 21 CFR SS 1306.11 if immediate need. The pharmacist determines that the patient has an immediate need for the medication and it is not possible to obtain a written prescription from the prescriber. Verbal prescription. The prescriber must provide a verbal order for the medication, which must be promptly reduced to writing. Documentation requirements. The pharmacist must document the prescription, including the date, patient name, medication name, strength, quantity, and directions for use, the prescriber is required to provide a written prescription to the pharmacy within 7 days of the verbal order. Failure to do so will result in the pharmacist needing to notify the DEA of the missing prescription. These regulations ensure that patient safety is prioritized while allowing necessary access to controlled substances in emergencies. Describe the process and requirements for submitting an investigational new drug IND application to the FDA. What are the key components that must be included, and what considerations are taken into account during the review process? Answer. The IND application process is governed by 21 CFR Part 312 and is essential for obtaining FDA approval to conduct clinical trials on new drugs. Key components of an IND application include preclinical data, comprehensive results from laboratory and animal studies demonstrating the drug's safety and efficacy, manufacturing information, details regarding the drug's composition, manufacturing process, and quality control measures, clinical protocols, a detailed plan for the clinical trials, including objectives, methodology, and participant criteria, investigator information, background information on the clinical investigators conducting the trials, informed consent procedures, guidelines outlining how participants will be informed about the risks and benefits of participating in the trial, review process considerations. The FDA reviews the IND application to ensure the safety of trial participants, the scientific validity of the proposed clinical trial. What are the regulations governing the transfer of controlled substance prescriptions between pharmacies? Describe the procedures pharmacists must follow and the documentation required for such transfers. Answer. The transfer of controlled substance prescriptions is regulated by 21 CFR SS 1306.26. The following procedures must be adhered to when transferring prescriptions for Schedule V substances. One-time transfer. Prescriptions for controlled substances can only be transferred once between pharmacies unless the pharmacies share a real-time electronic record-keeping system. Documentation requirements. The transferring pharmacist must document the transfer on the back of the original prescription, including the name of the pharmacist at the receiving pharmacy and the date of transfer. The receiving pharmacy must also maintain a record of the transferred prescription, including the original prescription number and details of the drug. Verification of license. Both pharmacies must verify the DEA registration of the transferring pharmacy to ensure compliance. What is a black box warning, and under what circumstances is it required on a drug's labeling? Discuss the implications for prescribers and patients. Answer. A black box warning is the most serious warning issued by the FDA and is required under 21 CFR SS 201.57 when there is reasonable evidence of an association with a serious hazard. These warnings are typically placed on the labeling of drugs that carry significant risks of serious adverse effects. Circumstances requiring a black box warning: discovery of significant risks during clinical trials or post-marketing surveillance that indicates a strong link between the drug and serious outcomes, reports of life-threatening effects or increased mortality associated with the use of the drug. Implications for prescribers. Healthcare providers must carefully consider the risks outlined in the black box warning when prescribing the drug, and they are often required to discuss these risks with patients. For patients, patients must be informed about the risks associated with the medication and may need to provide informed consent before starting therapy.